Hi students, I am uploading this video to our Moodle so that you have a resource to refer to when you are working on our second project, the color wheel project. You will complete all the readings, look at the handouts, and then refer to this, take notes if you want, to create your own color wheels. So let's get started. So when you open Illustrator, if you already have a file open, it will look like this. If you are opening a new file, go up to File, New. And keep in mind that I'm working on a MacBook Pro, so it might look a little different if you don't have a MacBook, but it will be somewhat similar. I also have this program turned on to show you what I'm clicking. A normal click is red, a double click is, or left click, double click meaning two fingers on the touchpad, is blue, and it also will pop up here in the upper left hand corner which keys I am pressing and when. Okay, so for this project I want you all to continue naming your projects in the way that I said in the project sheet. So first name, last name, underscore project, so color wheel. We only need one artboard for this project. An artboard is essentially the quote-unquote piece of paper that you're putting your work on, and we're going to keep it at letter size, which is 8.5 by 11 inches. You all know that you can change these inches, or excuse me, units of measurement here should we need it for any other projects, but this is our last project with Illustrator, so we will be moving on to Photoshop next, and that is a totally different unit of measurement. So other things to note: when you're working with something that's going to be printed, you want your color mode to be in CMYK. This means that the output for this is set up to be translated to a printer because these are the 4 colors that a printer prints. If it was RGB, that would be screens, which is what Photoshop works with. So we're just going to go ahead and click Create Document. First things first, I always hit Command R right away just to double check and see what units of measurement my rulers are in. So Command R right off the bat. I've had lots of students in the past just automatically start and press Command, or not press Command R, and not realize that they are working with like an inch by an inch of an artboard. So check that ahead of time. You also are more than welcome to set up your screen to have all of the same windows open that I have open. Some of them I have options on, but the most important ones I would say would be color guide, swatches, which is very large for some reason, layers, and artboards. So normally, if you are ever going to hand off your document to someone, you want to make sure that your artboards and your layers are labeled really, really well. And this is actually something that I forgot to mention to you all when you're working on your Gestalt project. Sorry, that name totally slipped my mind. If you had all those layers labeled, it would have been easier with working all of those shapes to move them from one layer to the next. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started. So make sure you've done your readings before this. It'll make a lot more sense about the colors and where they're being placed. But first things first, you want to take the ellipse tool, and you're going to want to hold down Shift and Option. The reason for doing this is because you will create a perfect circle by holding down the Shift key. Any shape, really. If I wanted to do a rectangle tool, excuse my air conditioning if it's harder to hear. If I hold down Shift, it locks those proportions and constrains them so that it is equal on all sides. Holding down Option while you're making your circle just means that it's pulling from that center point instead of from that corner. So that was not holding Shift, and now if I hold down Option while I'm holding down Shift, it'll pull from the center. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make this, I'll just say a 7-inch circle. You don't have to do this the way that I'm doing this, by the way. We can change it right here. up here in the ellipse width, type in 7 and go to 7 so that both sides are equal. Great. This is not centered in the center of the page. So if you go to your Align tab, if none of these are open, you go up to Window. You can open any of these that you would like. So your Align tab is here. It's also here. I'm going to click Align to Artboard really quick and just center this in the middle of the page. Takes away a lot of the guesswork, and I'm going to turn that back to selection because that'll be important for us later. So how on earth am I going to get this segmented out so that we can put all of the different 12 colors in the color wheel here? That's a great question. First things first, I'm going to take the pen tool. On your Illustrator worksheet that I'll have uploaded to you, you can see that a lot of these tools have these little triangles in the bottom, and that means that there's a pull-out menu. So I encourage you the next time that you are in Illustrator to take your time and open all of those menus and just see what options you have. So from the center, I'm going to go ahead and click, I'm going to click my pen tool, and I'm going to go straight up, holding down Shift to make sure everything is straight, and extend past the circle there. And now I'm going to press Escape to get out of that and switch back to my selection tool. My selection tool just allows me to select things. The direct selection tool allows individual points to be selected. So you'll see up here, I'll usually always press V, and that is the keyboard shortcut for a selection tool. Okay, so right here I have this line segment that I created selected, and I'm going to go ahead and click rotate. I'm going to click, I'm going to undo, and I'm going to click Option, hold the Option key, and click on that center point. And what that does is we're rotating that line segment around this central point to create those little subsections. And I'm going to let you all in on a horrible secret, I guess horrible fact. I'm awful at math. That's why I do art. And luckily these programs are formatted and created so that you can put in equations into some of the units of measurement, like where you see 30 degrees is highlighted here. There are 360 degrees in a circle, and I need 12 segments. So I'm just going to have it divided out for me. Okay, so I'm going to click copy, and what it does is it copies this one and moves it. It did the math and it said, okay, we need it this many amount of degrees rotated. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click Command D, and I'm going to do that the rest of the way around, all the way back up. Perfect. Now I'll get out of that and just hit V for selection. Awesome. Okay, so your color wheel should look like this. Okay, we're not done yet. We're almost there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag to select all of my options. Other ways you can do that, you can press Command A, which is select all, or I just like to drag select to make sure that I'm highlighting everything. So now what we need to do is we need to go to our Pathfinder window. Pathfinder is a way to combine and divide shapes. Now, there are so many different ways to do things in these programs, I promise you. So if you've messed around with Illustrator before and you're like, Carly, this is convoluted, I'm sorry, but it is really good to just know that there are multiple different ways that you can reach a solution using these programs, okay? So Pathfinder has to do with shapes. A shape is a path, okay? When we're in these programs. So if I click on divide, we can see that these two shapes that are overlapping look like they're being divided out. So with everything selected, I'm going to go ahead and click on divide, and would you look at that, it looks as though it has divided my shape into 12 equal parts. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup, and I'm going to press Command Shift G to ungroup. Also, if you are working on a MacBook Pro with a touch bar like myself, in your touch bar there's a button that says ungroup. It's also up here in object. I think it's in object, or I'm not sure. This is why keyboard shortcuts are the best, y'all. Command G is to group something together. Command Shift G is to ungroup. So whenever you divide a shape out in Pathfinder, you must ungroup it so that you have access to all of these different shapes, okay? Look at that. Perfect. Command Z to get those nice locked up. You don't want this grouped because we want to fill each of these with color. So this is a little different. There's not like a paint bucket tool or anything like that when you're working in Illustrator. You just have your fill and your stroke colors here. So if you have your swatches open, you can go ahead and you can fill that with a color, okay? And I don't want you to just willy-nilly put colors wherever you see fit. These colors have relationships, and so in your readings it talks about the different color relationships, where they are, why they exist, and how to place them together on a color wheel. So once you've done your readings, you can come back to this or just start this afterwards and fill your color wheel with color. The last thing I would like you to do is I would like you to label your project. This is a big deal for me. So when you click on your text tool, you can click to drag a text box, or you can just click anywhere and it will start to create a text box for you. So I want your first name and your last name. I want the name of the project. Whoa, I cannot type today. I haven't had any coffee. Project 02. Summer. We'll say computer assisted art, summer 2020. And we'll get rid of this. And I'll put this right here. Then another thing that I would like you to also do, I want you to make sure that you're labeling your colors, warm colors. There has to be an arrow for that. 1 second. And if you hold down Option, you can, and then Shift, you can duplicate, zoom in, hit T, and start to, what am I trying to say? Edit your text that way, okay? So we all should kind of maybe be familiar with the fact that there are warm and cool colors. And actually, instead of trying to find a glyph or something in this typeface, I want you all to just make an arrow for me. And you'll use your Pathfinder tool to work with this. So I'm just gonna show you really quickly how I would make a arrow. Whoa, that's a little big. Polygon tool, if you ever need to make a triangle, it's in your under your polygon tool panel. And some of you might have figured that out, some of you might not have, but you know what? There's more than one way to do legitimately everything in these programs. And I'm hovering to make sure that my smart guides are turned on. That's actually something that you should probably make sure. I think that's defaulted turned on, but if you go under View Smart Guides, this should be on, okay? So I've got my warm arrow. I'm gonna go over to Pathfinder and I'm gonna click Unite. And now this is an arrow, so cool. I'm going to transform, reflect. Great. And now I've got my cool and warm colors. I actually want that to be lined up. Great. Whoa. Maybe it should be lined up with this axis here. Great. Awesome. That's the demo for this. Now what I would like you to do is I would like you to make sure that you're saving, okay? Saving should be something that you are doing constantly, okay? The bigger these files get, the heftier they are in your computer's processing abilities. So if your computer doesn't have a lot of memory, you should be pressing Command S constantly. Anytime you think about it, if you get up to get a drink, if you get up to use the restroom, whatever that may be, okay? So we already labeled this when our project started, wherever you all are saving, okay? In the syllabus, I told you all that it might be pertinent for you to have a USB or a flash drive or some sort of cloud-based system like Dropbox perhaps, to archive your work. If something happens to your laptop, to your USB, your dog ate it, you stepped on it, you ran over it with your car, I don't know, I can't help you, okay? Lots of students, unfortunately, with the pandemic, left all of their files at school, and they had to recreate a lot of their stuff. So in order to not have that happen again, make sure that you're saving somewhere that you will have access to, whether or not you're with your computer or not, okay? So I save everything to Dropbox, meaning that I can log in anywhere from any computer and access all of my work, okay? So I have this in my Design Moval folder, and I'm gonna go ahead and click Save as an Adobe Illustrator file down here. And this is just options. This is just saying a bunch of stuff that we don't need to know right now. I'm gonna click OK. It's gonna think a little bit. I'm gonna then go back and press Command-Shift-S, which is Save As, okay? So saving as is making a copy. What I want to do is I wanna make a PDF also. A PDF is good for multiple reasons. One, it's easier for me to grade on the fly when I'm working on your grades and looking at things online. Because if you just upload an Illustrator file, I would then have to download and open your files. Now, I do still do that anyways to make sure that your files are composed correctly, you're using your layers and you're labeling things and paying attention to the things that I say in lecture. However, for printing and your personal archive, it's best to have a live file, meaning your Illustrator file that you can go back and make edits to, and then the PDF is what you can print from and what you'll submit to me. So always, always, always make sure that you have a saved copy as an Illustrator file that you can go back and refine, say maybe when we do project resubmissions, and you have your PDF saved. So I'm gonna go ahead and click Save, and it's just gonna tell me the same thing. How do you want this saved, blah, blah, blah. Just if it's at Illustrator default, that's great. Click Save PDF. And now we've got both of our files saved. Awesome. So if you need any additional help or have any other questions, please reach out to me in email and I will be more than happy to respond to those. If you all need to meet via Zoom, you can also email me and we can set up a time. Good luck and have fun making these.